Hi, I'm Joan Manson, and thank you for joining me today as I share with you the creation of an Oriole bird using pen pastels on a pastel paper. If you're interested in seeing more of my work, please click on the subscribe button. And if you like this one, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Thank you. Hello and welcome again, because I know I just said that in the introduction. I will be doing after this video is done. I am working today on a pen pastel portrait of an Oriole, and I have downloaded it, I believe, from Pixabay. I can't remember because it's been a little while and I didn't make notes on the photograph. Put that over there. I have done a freehand overall sketch. I did this with a titanium pastel pencil, titanium white, and I'm going to also be using the white pencil and the carbon black pastel pencil for some finer details. But for the most part, I will be using the pen pastels. I'll be using the yellow and the red to make orange, white of course, and black. And I will be using, oops, turn this way. The blue, the yellow, and the red to make the branch, the black and the white to make gray in the legs, and I'll add a little touch of the red or the yellow to add a little color to those gray items. And not sure if I'm going to do a background, so as I frequently do, I will leave that alone, and then in the end I'll decide. I am using a gray tone. Oops. I'm using a gray tone of the Canson tinted paper, colored papers. And I have gotten some yellow pan pastel on here. Get that off. This could dictate whether or not. I actually tried to trace this, but I'm on my photograph is on a glossy photo paper, a little too thick for me to allow me to do a tracing. So then I just said, well, that's all right. I'm not going through all those extra steps. I'll just do a freehand drawing. And that's what I did. Now, another thing though that's new today are these blending tools. They come from China. Everything is in Chinese except for the word sketch plan. I don't know what that means, but these are for sketching, wiping, pastels, smudging, correcting, smearing. So it's a blending tool. They've pretty much used every adjective for blending that they could in that little description. It's Sum Yahoo Mianbi, and that would be the name of the company, and I know I have messed that up. These are the pieces. Now, this is the largest of the piece of these blending tools. It has one flat side, and the rest is round. The flat side is like a lot of the pastel cosmetic applicators that I use that are the shape of an egg, and they have different size flat sides. The other two pieces for blending are just smaller. And here's the smaller one. I'm not quite sure how they'll work, so in case I don't like the way they work out, I also have my other blending tools, the triangular, the square edge, the round edge, and I of course have two ovals, one for the light colors, one for the dark colors, and those are set. If I decide to do a background, I have the triangular, which I might use, my tape keeps winning, on the little feathers over here. it just gives such a nice fluffy light feeling. But in case I'll use these for the background if I do a background. And if I need to do anything tiny, I have these smaller applicator tools. Yeah. Okay. And I am ready to get started. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to use the smaller one. And I'm going to start with the orange that I'm creating from the red and the yellow. A little more yellow. I'm going to take a little of the blending with it, which will lighten it up a bit more. And bring this down here and see how we like this. I think that's a little too peachy, so I'm going to be adding more yellow to it, but let me just lay down what I have and I'll lighten it. I have to say these applicators apply very nicely. A little of the blending tool, a little more of the yellow. Again, this is more of a peach, and the reason it's more of a peach is because the blending medium acts almost like a white and mutes the color. So let me go back and just use this. A little more yellow on top of that. Now if I feel that this isn't, it's a little difficult to get an absolute fine line from this. But let me put more yellow on top of this. I'm just taking the yellow straight out of the pan. The blending medium, which is a white powder, works beautifully in helping the colors to blend, but it does also lighten the colors. The sponge works very nicely, although I do think, of course, you know, this is like the backseat driver, that the sponge itself should have been longer, and that I could do more if the sponge is longer. And I'm moving over the outline that I've drawn for this area. I'll bring the black over it. But it's much lighter up here, and I want that yellow. Now I can only do so many layers because I'm using the smooth side of the Canson paper. So there's not as much tooth. But by the same token, when you do that, the color applies more quickly. Okay, and okay, I think that's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and do is take the yellow and the red and add a little bit of the blue. More blue, more red, lots of yellow, a bit of that blending. See how I like this? A touch more blue and red, a touch more yellow. And I say it over and over again, I blend on the paper and in the palette more than I will on a piece of paper where I can pick it up like a smooth computer paper. This applicator does work very nicely. Now, it's not really, the branch is very white or light colored, cream colored, and I am making this more on the yellow side to start with. It's my picture, I can do whatever I want. And as I have said in the past, I'm not working on photorealism. I'm working on atmosphere and color and light. Now, let's swipe that off a bit over there. Coming back over to a bit, just a couple of dabs of black, a little bit of shadow, and creating areas where the bark is peeled back. Just creating those little hard edges and tapping it over here and doing a little bit of a shadow edge here. Let me bring in some of this here. Okay. Here we go. I know that's incredibly dark as compared to the original. Now I'm going to bring white in. I have 2 tins of white, one that's one that's wearing down and one that isn't. So I'm lightening up the bark in the appropriate areas. Doing a lot of work with just one applicator tool. I'm very surprised. I didn't think I'd be able to do this much. And it really is lovely how we can apply the lighter pastel over the darker pastel just the same way that you can with paints. Well, with oil or acrylic paints, not with watercolor paints. All right, that's much better. It's not as light as, and I'll show you that. You can see how much lighter the wood is, in the branches in the tree, than it is in my drawing. And if I wanted to go that way, I certainly could have. But I really prefer having more tone here. Oops. Now, I'm going to bring in a little bit more white. Can't bring in that much more because I am using up my tooth. And if I choose to spray this with fixative, the fixative will darken things a bit. And I'll have to come back in and lighten it some more. Okay, and just want to do little dashes, one through here, for a little bit of interest. Wow, that was really good. I mean, I have done a lot of work with this sponge, and I am impressed with how well it works. It's very soft. It carries a lot of pigment. And I think it's wonderful. Okay, now let me get a paper towel very quickly. Piece of paper towel. Just rubbing it off. I'm sure I can run it under the sink faucet and put some soap on it and let it dry out and clean it that way. And I'm just going to leave it like this for the moment. Okay, now let me see how this works. Work with a touch of gray, touch of white, gray, white, and a touch of the blue. to make my gray legs. Now I'm going to want to do some, there's a word for it, some lines on the feet because there are folds, tiny folds, but there are indeed folds. And there's a limit to how fine I can get with these particular brushes, but pretty good. Now I'm going to bring just the white over on the tip. Okay. The same for here and here and here. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm going to come back with a pencil to do some finer detailing on that in terms of the shadow, or one of the smaller applicator brushes. Okay, yeah, let me take the triangular brush and lay that in here. There we go. I can do a little bit finer line without going to the pencil. And let me see. Okay, and that's a little bit better, and a little highlighting there. That's pretty good fine detailing for these palette brushes. And let's see, now I'm going to take the yellow, as long as I'm over here, highlighting it here. Okay, very good. I'm going to bring this piece back. This is the one that I do everything else with, so I'm going to bring back the red and the yellow and the more yellow, the tiny blending, and work this up a little bit. Yeah, that's a better orange. Okay, and there's a touch more yellow right here. Yeah, these brushes don't give up quite as much of the pigment as the other ones do. And let me bring in a touch of the blue over here to probably bring in shadow. Now, I'm going to bring the red and the yellow together, and a little more yellow, okay, and bring that over the blue to make the shadow that I want. There we go. So that's much darker there. And I'm going to do the same thing here. A run of blue along the chest, and the orange on top of that. Okay. Let me wipe off that little applicator. And pure yellow. This is Hansa yellow. I have permanent red, Hansa yellow, ultramarine blue, black and white, titanium white, and I should know what black this is. They only have one. It's just called black. Also on this palette is yellow ochre, which I use when I do a Zorn palette. I'm not including that in this today. This is a primary color palette. Election time is going on. Okay. So that's nice before I get to the black part. Let me bring over a touch of the black and white to create a gray for the beak. A touch of the blue right here. To make it a blue-gray. And the white on top of that to make it a lighter gray. Okay. And here there we go. That's taken care of. Okay, and what I want to do right now is work on where the white goes in the wings. There are white feathers on the flight wings in various areas, and I'm going to lay those in, and I am going to use my oval applicator tool. It gives me a little bit more control. I can go a little bit deeper with it or lighter with it than I can with the shorter one. I need a little bit more length for it. So let me take that and find all little places that I think that there's a nice white up here. And of course I can cover it up with a black. And there's some here and here and here. I'll bring in the black and lighten it some, but... And again, this is something I could do with white pencils. But I only like to use the pencils when I have to get a fine line in there, a fine hairs on a dog's snout, the whiskers on a cat, a little bit of the feathers coming off the body of the bird. So I really would prefer as much as possible to use and I'm just gonna this is a lot more white than there will be, but I'm going to be using the black to actually create the white lines. Now, another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use the other tip, and I'm going to take the red and the yellow and a touch of the blue to make the brown of the eye. But here we go. Add a little bit more blue to that. There we go. So it's a little bit darker. Okay. I don't want it to be black. It's a brown eye. I'm going to give it a touch of reflection at the top here. Give it a sense of being curved. And there we go. I'm going to come back again with the white on the beak now to make the highline of the beak greater. I'm going to use this eraser to add to the curve of that beak. Very good. And a touch of the other side with that blue to make a better shadow. Somehow working on the beak always ends up being a back and forth procedure. Okay. Here we go. All right. Now, I'm ready to move on to adding white to the yellow feathers. And add the highlights. Here. And then I'll come back again afterwards, and I may at that time use the white pencil or the black pencil to come up and define the softness of the feathers more. I'm just dabbing it down and dragging it a bit, and I'm giving the illusion of feathers, overlaying other feathers. I like the way that worked, and a bit of the white again over here. And to brighten them on this end, down here. I'm going to bring in the yellow again on top of that to make them more yellow. I know they should be orange, but I'm making them more yellow. There we go. Because they're in greater sunlight. There we go. I like that very much. Wipe off that applicator. And now I'm going to use my clean oval applicator tool to work with the black. I'm going to work first with the tail feathers and adding the black there. I'm going to come back over here and just work on the wing feathers first before I get to the head. What I like about the oval applicator is you can lay it down and create the shape of a feather or a flower petal with very little effort. And I could have used that newer applicator that I was using for the orange, but actually this oval applicator worked much better on these wing feathers. Okay. Let me just bring this in here, a little white, a little black. Okay. And Now let me bring in touches of the white in a few areas. Just and we're going to bring the black back in again over the white that I've put in. And I have to break down and use the pencil because I'm just turning it into gray and don't want to do that. Yeah. This is the Caran d'Ache white. And it's not so much that it's that white, it's that I need the distinction from the paper. Because and you can also use a Prismacolor new pastel stick for this as well. It should be a little bit harder than a soft pastel. And then I will go ahead and do this part all the way down to the beak. Okay. I couldn't make this black stick here, so the pencil will come in fine there. Alright. And I'll put in a pupil here. And the black line along the eye. Okay. Now I also want to come back with the black pencil here just to create a better separation of the claws from the branch and from each other. Not too much. And then I'll bring this down here a bit. Okay. Okay, I'm going to bring back my other oval, the yellow one, some yellow and some white. I need to have it lightened up a bit more. There we go. It's too flat. I want it to be lighter. Okay, and this area I'm not happy with. This area needs to be brighter. And I'm going to use the applicator tool that I've been using as opposed to the one that I laid the colors down. I suspect that it doesn't release as much. We bring in the blending medium as well. So it'll blend on top of what's there. And yeah, this is much brighter. little more of the blending medium. And let me get a little more transition here. A little more transition up here. That's much better. Shadow is fine. Okay, and now I'm going to use the black pencil again to define the differences very mildly between these white feathers on the wingspan. And then I'm going to bring the white in here and do the same thing. And bring those in closer. Okay. And that one in a little bit lighter. Okay. I'm preferring that. Blend that pencil in. Okay. I'm going to erase this from here. I know that people love the sanded papers, and I have used them, and they are lovely. I happen to prefer the pastel papers from Canson and the Artigan papers. They give me a better chance to use an eraser and do some trimming. And it's not so much as making it that much difference. It's just that little 1/16 of an inch that comes off makes all the difference in the expression of the creature. And I'm just going to bring in that pencil. And I like to have a few not too many. I've overdone it. Just a few stray feathers coming off the chin. And one or two up here. It's not in the photograph, but gosh, I like it. It's just, I like the small imperfection. Again, I'm still using that finely sharpened black pencil. To give it that irregular shape. And I'm going to be using a touch of the darker right up here. It's a bit of a shadow right here. And then some yellow bringing it down. Okay. And more bright yellow, just dabbed right on top of it. Okay. Okay. I now declare this portrait of an Oriole to be complete. I thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of my work, I would appreciate it if you would just click on that subscribe button and the bell if you'd like to see more of my work and be reminded of more of my work. I'm pushing 60 videos at this time. Moving along, I've got another upcoming one this Friday, and this one will be the next week after I'm done with doing the upload. I'm also sort of taking a different approach to my videos at this time. I am, how shall I put this, being more casual and trying less and less to have it more a demonstration and a sharing with me, as opposed to having a step-by-step lesson. I'm showing you what I'm doing step by step. It's all real time, but I'm not trying to make it a step one, step two kind of lesson. I'm not in other lessons I have done that. I've moved through one step at a time. And if that's something people would prefer to see, I'd be happy to hear that, and I'll go back to working that way. But right now, I like working and talking to you as I complete the work and just doing it in full time, as opposed to doing time lapse or time lapsing over certain portions of the video. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. Once again, I'm Joan Manson, and I wish you well. And if you want to know more about using pan pastels, I am not the only person on YouTube who is showing you how to use it. People are showing you giving lessons in how to use it as a background tool, as in conjunction with pencils to make more realistic work, using it with watercolors and alcohol. There are so many different ways to use pan pastels, and I have done some of those on some of my videos, so take a look and see what you think. And again, if there's something you like that you'd like me to share with you, I'll be more than happy to give that a shot. Thank you once again, everybody.